Welcome to my channel, where we investigate some of today's most mysterious and disturbing crimes. In this episode, we delve into the tragic and complex story of Richard Engelbert, a successful real estate agent whose seemingly perfect life was hiding dark secrets that eventually led to his shocking murder. Richard Engelbert, 48, was a well-known figure in Littleton, Colorado. Recognized by his shiny black car with a distinctive license plate, Richard had built a solid reputation during his 20-year real estate career. He was known for his friendly demeanor, and Richard lived in a spacious two-story home with a well-manicured lawn. Neighbors would often find him outside, working in the yard and greeting them with a warm smile. Outside of his career, Richard is deeply involved in his community, participating in local events, supporting charities, and even sponsoring local sports teams. He attends church with his family every Sunday, presenting the image of a man who has it all: a successful career, a beautiful home, and a loving family. However, Richard's life is not as perfect as it seems. For the past 2 years, he has been hiding a dark secret: a relationship with his stepson, Harrison. This relationship is carefully kept secret from everyone, not even his wife, Wendy, a school teacher. As we dig deeper into the case, we discover how Richard's secret life spiraled out of control, leading to a murder that left the Littleton community in shock and disbelief, wondering why such a tragedy had happened. Meeting clients, he spent long hours in the office and often came home late. He was looking forward to a weekend getaway to the Bahamas with his wife, Wendy, hoping to relax and forget his troubles in. For a while, Richard had also planned to attended a 4th of July barbecue at a friend's house, where he was looking forward to catching up with old friends and enjoying some time away from his busy life. Friends of Richard described him as charismatic and charming, with a way of making people feel comfortable and important despite his friendly exterior. Richard was deeply troubled by his reclusive lifestyle, feeling guilty about his affair with Harrison and the lies he told to keep it secret, and worried that Wendy would find out, fearing it would destroy their marriage and his standing in the community in his final days. Richard was a man under great pressure as he tried to balance a public image with private turmoil. His dream of a perfect life gradually disintegrated, leading to a tragic and violent end at approximately 3 p.m. on June 27, 2014. Wendy Enber returned home early from her job as a principal, looking forward to a relaxing evening, maybe watching a little Netflix and finishing her favorite book. When she walked through the front door of their home on Bleak Street in Littleton, Colorado, everything seemed normal. At first, she placed her keys on the kitchen counter and called out to Richard, but when there was no answer, she became a little worried. Wendy decided to check the basement, where Richard often spent time doing real estate filings or watching the History Channel as she went downstairs, noticing that the basement door looked a bit like ajar, which was unusual. She called his name again, this time louder, but still no answer. When she reached the bottom of the stairs, she found a horrifying scene. Richard's lifeless body was lying on the floor, surrounded by signs of a violent struggle. There were bloodstains on the carpet and furniture, and Richard's face was bruised and beaten. An expensive men's belt was wrapped tightly around his neck, apparently used to strangle him to death. Wendy screamed in fear and ran to her husband, shaking him and trying to wake him up. But it was too late. In a state of shock and disbelief, Wendy grabbed her cell phone and dialed 911. Her hands were shaking as she spoke to the operator. Her voice was choked with emotion. "My husband is dead. I think he was murdered," she cried, struggling to catch her breath. The operator tried to calm her down and told her to stay on the line until the police arrived. Wendy's neighbor, Lubby Johnson G., heard the commotion and ran to see what was going on. She found Wendy sitting on the front steps, sobbing. Lubby stayed with Wendy, trying to comfort her while they waited for the police. The minutes felt like hours, and Wendy's mind raced with questions about who could have done this and why. When the police finally arrived, they quickly secured the scene and escorted Wendy and Lubby out of the basement. Wendy in a state of shock, barely able to comprehend what had just happened. She kept repeating who did this to Richard over and over in her mind. Unable to process the devastating reality of her husband's death, the discovery of Richard's body sent shockwaves through the quiet community of Littleton. News of the murders in the Littleton community spread quickly, with neighbors and friends gathering outside Burt Ankle's home. Make sense of the tragedy that had occurred. Attacked their ideal neighborhood investigation on June 27, 2014 at 3:15 p.m. Littleton Police Department received a panicked 911 call from Wendy Engelbert. Officers arrived on the scene within minutes, led by Detective James Casamento, a seasoned investigator known for his meticulous approach. The Engelbert home, located on quiet Oak Street, was quickly surrounded by police cars, and yellow crime scene tape was strung around the perimeter. Detective Casamento and his team entered the basement, where they were confronted with a horrific sight. Richard Engelbert's body lying on the floor with a fancy men's belt tightly wrapped around his neck. Bloodstains were visible on the carpet and nearby furniture, indicating a violent struggle. Detective Casamento, a pesticide sprayer in his late 40s with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, observed the scene with steely determination. The police began their investigation by gathering evidence. They photographed the scene from various angles, recording every detail. The belt used in the murder was tied up, carefully packed as evidence, and detectives searched for fingerprints and any other clues that could lead to the killer. The Casamento detectives noted overturned furniture and signs of a struggle, suggesting that Richard had fought for his life. Forensic experts arrived to process the scene using spotlights to detect traces of blood and collect samples for DNA analysis. They meticulously searched the area looking for hair and any other potential evidence. The brutality of the murder shocked even the most experienced police officers, but they remained focused on gathering every piece of information they could. The detective interviewed Wendy Engelbert, who was still in shock at the discovery of her husband's body. She described her day and the horrific moment when she found Richard. Her account was detailed and emotional, but she insisted that she had no idea who could have done this. Wendy's alibi was quickly cleared up, as she had been at work at the time of the murder. Later, the police then began canvassing the neighborhood. They spoke to neighbors, including Luby Johnson. Gant was going to help Wendy. Sarah described hearing Wendy scream and seeing her on the front steps. Her voice was strong and incoherent. Other neighbors had mentioned seeing Richard earlier in the day, but nothing unusual. The police also checked Richard's phone and recent emails. The psychoanalyst hopes to find any clues when he discovers a number of suspicious text messages and calls that show Richard meeting various men for sex. The revelation adds a new layer to the investigation, pointing to potential motives involved in Richard Engelbert's reclusive life. As day turns to night, police continue their work, determined to find the person responsible for Richard Engelbert's brutal murder. The scene has been cleared, and Detective Cattle and his team have reviewed the evidence collected, preparing for the next steps in their investigation. The Littleton community has been watching anxiously, hoping for answers in justice for Richard Engelbert, the first suspect in Richard Engelbert's murder. Wendy Engelbert. Engelbert is the wife of Wendy. Engelbert, Wendy 47, was a respected school principal in Littleton, known for her intelligence and strong character. She worked for the school district for over 15 years and was heavily involved in community activities. Her colleagues described her as dedicated and capable, who always strived for excellence. Wendy was brought in for questioning the day after the murder on 28 June 2014. Detective James Cattle in 2014 led the interview, attempting to piece together her actions and emotions. Wendy appeared exhausted and distressed, but answered questions calmly as she recounted her day at work and the discovery of Richard's body when she returned home. Despite her calm demeanor, Wendy's anger and confusion. It was clear she expressed disbelief and frustration about the incident, insisting that she had no idea Richard had had sex with other men. The revelation of the incident added to the tension of the interview as Detective Cattle delved deeper into Wendy's feelings about her husband's betrayal. Detective Cattle asked Wendy about her relationship with Richard. She admitted they had a strong partnership, but mentioned that they had faced some recent challenges. Wendy claimed she did not know about Richard's secret life. She explained that she had recently suffered a skiing injury, which had made it difficult for her, can read people's actions, and suggest that this may be why she missed any signs of Richard's double life. Wendy's alibi is solid. She was at school all day, attending meetings and preparing for the upcoming school year. Co-workers and security footage have confirmed she was at work at the time of the murder. However, her connection to the victim has made her a notable person. Detective Cattle also explores Wendy's possible MTIV. Her reputation and career are important to her, and Richard's case threatened both of them. However, Wendy steadfastly denied any involvement in the murder, maintaining her innocence throughout the interrogation. She cooperated and provided all requested information, including access to her phone and emails. Police conducted a thorough search of Engelbert's home for any evidence that could link Wendy to the crime. They did not find any incriminating evidence to support her testimony and alibi. Detectives remained cautious, aware that emotions can drive even the most rational individuals to desperate actions. Wendy was released after hours of interrogation, but she remained under surveillance as the investigation continued. Police closely monitored her interactions and actions while they explored other leads. The Richard Engelbert murder is proving to be a complex case with many layers of secrets and motives that are slowly being revealed. Richard's 21-year-old stepson, Harrison Engelbert, is the next suspect. According to Harrison, a college student and part-time bartender, known for his troubled past, having been in and out of rehab and 12-step programs as a teenager. Despite these challenges, Harrison was determined to turn his life around and was studying psychology at a local community college. On June 28, 2014, Harrison was brought in for questioning. Detective James Cattle, aware of the sensitive nature of Harrison's relationship with Richard, approached the questioning cautiously. Harrison appeared nervous, but Cooper was willing to share his story. Harrison admitted to police that he had been in a secret sexual relationship with his stepfather for the past 2 years. He described feeling conflicted and struggling with deception and secrecy. Harrison revealed that he had recently ended the relationship after discovering that Richard had cheated on him with dozens of other men. He used the homes he presented as a real estate agent as secret meeting places during interrogation. Harrison expressed anger and sadness that he felt betrayed by Richard, not only because of the affair, but also because of the lies and manipulation. Although he was very resentful, Harrison claimed he had no intention of harming Richard. He claimed he had been drinking on the night of the murder, and several witnesses have confirmed his ally. Detective Cattle has dug deeper into Harrison's possible motives. The young man's history of emotional disturbance and substance abuse has raised concerns, but his recent attempts to stay sober and focus on his studies have painted a different picture. Harrison has been open about his struggles and his desire to move past his toxic relationship with Richard. Police have also examined Harrison's electronic devices and social media accounts for any evidence of his involvement in the crime. They have found messages between him and Richard showing tension and conflict, but nothing directly implicating him in Harrison's murder. DNA was found at the crime scene, but since he lived in the house, this was no surprise. Harrison's cooperation and consistent alibi made it difficult for police to pin the blame on him. He was released after hours of questioning, but he remains a key figure in the investigation. Police continue to monitor his movements and interactions to look for any inconsistencies or new evidence that could shed light on his involvement. The complicated relationship between Richard and Harrison adds to the complexity of the case, leaving Detective Cattle and his team with more questions than answers as they dig deeper. They hope to uncover the truth behind the brutal murder of Richard Engelbert. Hey, true crime solvers interested in more real-life murders. Alexa Hernandez, please like and subscribe to our channel. Do you have any thoughts on this case or have your own case you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Stay safe. True crime solvers. Alexa Hernandez, 30, is the third suspect in the investigation. Alexa has a history with Richard Engelbert that makes her a suspect. She once caught Richard having sex with her husband in the bathroom of a house they were touring together, which led to the end of her marriage, was known for her temper. Alexa had had several confrontations with Richard since the June 29, 2014 incident. Detective James Cattle brought Alexa in for questioning. Alexa was a waitress at a popular local diner and had a reputation for being outspoken and strong-willed. She entered the interrogation room with a defiant look on her face, ready to defend herself. Detective Cattle began by asking Alexa about her relationship with Richard. She admitted that she despised him for ruining her marriage and causing her great emotional pain. Alexa described the day she found out her husband and Richard were together as the worst day of her life. She confronted Richard several times, then demanded answers and apologies, but he always brushed her off when asked about her whereabouts on the day of the murder. Alexa said she had been working double shifts at a diner called Denny's. She provided the names of possible co-workers determined to prove her alibi. Cattle called the diner and spoke to Alexa's manager, who confirmed that Alexa had been at work all day. Many co-workers also confirmed seeing her during her shift, although she had an alibi. Cattle explored Alexa's possible motives. The intense anger towards Richard was apparent, but she insisted that she had moved on and was focusing on rebuilding her life. Alexa shared that she was taking night classes at a local community college in hopes of becoming a social worker and helping others who have gone through similar hardships. Police searched Alexa's home and car for any evidence that could link her to the crime. They did not find anything suspicious or incriminating. Alexa's phone records and social media activity did not show any contact with Richard in the weeks leading up to the murder. During questioning, Alexa remained calm and composed despite her obvious disdain for Richard. She answered every question directly and showed no signs of guilt or deception. Detective Cattle noted her cooperation and honesty, but knew they had to keep all options open after hours of questioning. Alexa was released. Police continued to monitor her, knowing that her past with Richard made her a potential suspect. However, her alibi and lack of evidence made it difficult to link her to the crime, the investigation into her murder. Richard Engelbert's case becomes more complicated with each interrogation. Detective Cattle and his team are determined to uncover the truth, but the web of secrets and lies surrounding Richard's life makes their task increasingly difficult. They continue in the hope of finding evidence that will finally reveal the killer. On July 3, 2014, the investigation takes a major turn. It is a hot summer day in Littleton, Colorado, with temperatures reaching 80 degrees around 10 a.m. Jing's police team receives a call from the forensic lab. They find important new evidence when they re-examine items from the crime scene among Richard Engelbert's belongings. A small hidden camera disguised as a smoke detector was installed in the basement. His police team and his team immediately retrieved the footage. The camera has recorded the activities in the basement over the past few weeks, recording Richard's secret meetings and interactions. When they reviewed the footage, they discovered a recording from the day of the murder. The video showed a heated argument between Richard and his stepson, Harrison Engelbert. The argument quickly escalated into a physical struggle on video. Harrison snatched a luxury belt from a nearby chair and used it to strangle Richard in a fit of rage. The footage captured the entire incident, providing irrefutable evidence of Harrison's involvement in the murder. Batten was shocked by the brutality and apparent motive behind the murder. ACT was furious and betrayed by this new evidence. The police team contacted Harrison and asked him to come in for further questioning. Harrison arrived at the police station, unaware of the video evidence against him during questioning. Cattle confronted him with the video footage. Harrison's demeanor immediately changed from initially calm to panic and despair when he realized he had been arrested. Harrison broke down and confessed that he explained that he felt trapped in a relationship with Richard, manipulated by both his stepfather and mother. Wendy Richards' constant deception and infidelity pushed him to the breaking point. Harrison admitted that in a moment of uncontrollable anger, he killed Richard to free himself from a suffocating situation. Detective Cattle carefully recorded Harrison's confession, making sure every detail was recorded. New evidence combined with the confession leaves no doubt about Harrison's guilt. Police now have a clear picture of the events leading up to the murder of Richard Angelbert and the complex web of secrets and lies that surrounded the case on July 4, 2014, just before noon. The Littleton Police Department made a decisive move with Harrison Engelbert's confession, and incriminating video evidence. Detective James Cattle and his team are ready to arrest him for the murder of Richard Angelbert. Harrison was 21 years old, a college student and a bartender part-time, living a tumultuous and confused life despite trying to overcome his troubled past. Intense emotional pressure from his affair with his stepfather and his mother's manipulations pushed him to the breaking point. The police learned that Harrison had been overwhelmed by feelings of betrayal and manipulation that led Richard to die in a fit of rage on the day of his arrest. Detective Cattle and several police officers arrived at Harrison's apartment. They knocked on the door, and Harrison looked pale and exhausted, answering that he had been handcuffed and read his rights. Harrison seemed resigned to his fate, showing little emotion as he was led to the police car. The neighborhood was quiet, but a few curious onlookers watched the proceedings at the police station. Harrison was formally charged with Richard's murder. Detective Cattle, Angelbert conducted a final interview to record every detail of Harris's confession. Harrison recalled feeling trapped and manipulated by Richard, as well as pressured by his mother, Wendy. He described the events leading up to the murder, including a violent argument that led to the fatal attack. Wendy Angelbert, Richard's wife and Harrison's mother, were also brought in for questioning. The investigation revealed that Wendy had known about the affair for months and had pressured Harrison to continue. She feared that Richard's reckless sexual behavior would ruin her chances in the upcoming election for school superintendent. However, Wendy was not directly involved in the murder. Her deception and manipulation complicated the case, but she was not charged with any crime. Richard's family were shocked by the revelations they saw Richard as a devoted husband and father who was unaware of his double life. Harrison's arrest caused mixed emotions. Grief over Richard's death, anger at the betrayal, and sense of tragedy were inevitable in this situation. The Littleton community was stunned by the news of the murder, exposing a hidden world of secrets and lies that shook the town to its core as Harrison awaited trial. The Engelbert family and the entire community struggled to come to terms with the shocking events that had taken place. The police solved the case, but the emotional aftermath would last for a long time. The truth about Richard's life and death was revealed, but the scars left behind would take longer to heal. The trial of Harrison and Gilbert began on August 15, 2014, in Littleton, Colorado. The courtroom was packed with family, friends, and local media, all eager to hear the details of the case. The trial was a major event in the community, attracting the attention of both local and national news outlets. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Laura Mitchell, the 45-year-old, known for her powerful court presence and dedication to justice, argued that Harrison's murder of Richard Angelbert was premeditated and motivated by deep anger and betrayal. She presented secret video footage of Harrison's confession as key evidence. Mitchell insisted that Harrison's actions were the result of a troubled and dysfunctional relationship, but that he was ultimately responsible for his stepfather's brutal death. The defense was represented by non-binary barrister Zede Barnes, a 40-year-old lawyer with a reputation for defending high-profile cases. Barnes argued that Harrison's actions were the result of intense emotional turmoil and manipulation from both Richard and his mother, Wendy. They claimed that Harrison's unstable mental state and the pressure he faced made it difficult for him to control his actions. Barnes sought a guilty verdict, but considered a lesser charge in the hopes of receiving a more lenient sentence due to the circumstances of the trial. The victim's family, including Wendy Angelbert and other relatives, sat silently, clearly distraught by the trial. They were shocked by the revelations about Richard's double life and the chaos it caused. Their emotional reactions were evident as they listened to the details of the incident and the murder on September 5, 2014. The jury returned a verdict of second-degree murder for Harrison Engelbert. The jury determined that although Harrison had acted in a fit of rage, the killing was not intentional. The decision was met with mixed reactions, with some arguing that the verdict was based solely on the emotional and psychological factors involved, while others felt the verdict was too lenient given the brutality of the crime. Harrison was sentenced to 20.5 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought closure to the case, but the pain and trauma for Richard's family remains unresolved. The Engelbert family has struggled to find peace, knowing that Richard's death was caused by someone so close to them. The impact of the trial has extended far beyond the courtroom, forcing the community to confront the hidden realities of betrayal and manipulation that left a lasting mark on Littleton. As the case comes to a close, the Engelbert family and the town of Littleton begin the difficult process of healing after the shocking events that unfolded after Harrison Engelbert's trial ended in September 2014. Life in Littleton, Colorado is slowly returning to normal, but the impact of the case still lingers. The community, deeply shaken by Richard Engelbert's brutal murder and the subsequent revelations, faces a long process of healing and adjustment. Harrison Engelbert is currently serving a 25-year prison sentence remains in the Colorado Department of Corrections. His life behind bars has been marked by the same struggles he faced on the outside as he came to terms with his own emotions and the consequences of his actions in prison. Harrison is said to have remained quiet and withdrawn. Focused on completing his education through available programs, he has used his time to reflect on her past decisions and seek counseling for her emotional issues. Wendy Engelbert, Richard's wife, also had her own challenges as she faced a trial that revealed her knowledge of Richard's affair and her manipulation of her actions that had a significant impact on her personal and professional life. The scandal affected her candidacy for school superintendent, a position she had actively campaigned for despite her previous efforts to present a perfect image. The revelations led her to withdraw from the race. Wendy attempted to rebuild her life away from the public eye, sought therapy to cope with the emotional fallout, and address the impact of the scandal on her reputation. In the months following the trial, Littleton began to move forward. Although the scars of the case remained, the community held memorial and support events to honor the memory of Richard Engelbert and support those affected by the family's tragic crime. Engelbert is a stark reminder of the hidden struggles that can take place behind closed doors when life returns to normal. The speed of the case remains a painful chapter in Littleton's history, a reminder of the profound impact that betrayal and violence have on individuals and communities. The story of Richard Engelbert's murder is a tragic reminder of the complexities and hidden secrets that can lurk beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect life. It is a story of manipulation, deception, and the devastating consequences of living a double life. Thank you for joining us on this episode of True Crime Case Files. We'll continue to follow along for more details on some of the most baffling cases.